Alright, so what we have here is the Terot T-2D gimbal. I've been experimenting with this on taking footage on my motorcycles. Had some kind of mixed results. Some have come up good, some have come up bad. But all in all, for what this cost, I think I paid about $170 for the gimbal itself. It's a pretty good deal. This is out of the box, assembled. The only things that you're seeing here that don't come with the gimbal is obviously the GoPro. This is another lens cover that I added. It's just Velcroed down to the camera, so it makes for easy on, easy off, makes battery changes a lot quicker. The other lens screws to this plate, and so every time you want to remove the camera, you have to find a little Allen wrench, take the screws out. It's kind of a pain. As you can see, the circuit board is mounted to the carbon fiber mount itself, which is nice. Having them separate obviously takes up more room. And the only other addition I added was just a regular GoPro flat sticky mount for it. This lets me adapt it to different mounting spots on the motorcycles, and I'll show you those next. Okay, I'm just updating this video to add that I changed the mount just a tad. Watching the video back, I realized that the way I had it mounted before wasn't allowing these shock absorbers to really do anything to help with the stabilization. Since I had it directly to the top plate, which is also what the gimbal itself bolts to, it was basically negating this bottom plate. So what I did was, these posts are how the gimbal's mounted to the quadcopter to allow for the buffering action of the shocks. So I just fabbed up this aluminum plate. Real easy to do. Just took some, I don't know, 32 thousand aluminum I had laying around. Made it fit. I'm missing a couple bolts right now. I'll add those to it. But what this does is, now when it's mounted here, you can see it allows that top plate to move. So hopefully it'll help some of the vibration. Even though I didn't get a whole lot of vibration, any little bit probably helps. So anyway, like I said, the only difference is, instead of putting this on the top plate, just added an aluminum plate, bolted it down to the existing post, glued my mount to the top of it, and curious to see if it makes any difference. But anyway, thanks. Alright, so the only thing in addition that you need to adapt this to the GoPro suction cup mount is you'll obviously need one of the GoPro mount adapters. The tricky part with this is as you can see there, hopefully you can see this, is I had to, this isn't really meant to be the way these parts connect, but it was easy enough to do. You just got to wedge them in there, and then I took a longer bolt. This is the regular nut that comes with it. Longer bolt, and in this case the bolt was a little too long, so I had to add a spacer to it. But that lets you mount it directly to it. As you can see here, I have a battery. This is an 11.1 volt 900 megahertz 25C discharge battery. I have a battery strap here, strapping it to the place, and that's about it. It's pretty compact. The battery mounts to the, straps right to this, fits nice. So in the case of the footage you saw with the Ducati, I pretty much had it mounted right here. And so you take the gimbal, obviously clip it right in there, and you're all mounted up. You want to make sure your plates are nice and level here. You'll see I have some extra zip ties and stuff around here. That's because when I actually go to ride, I actually tether this off to the frame. That way, if I should lose it mid-ride or something, you know, it's hopefully stays attached to the bike. I'll let you see what the gimbal does when it powers up. Basically, you'll see an amber light in here. That light's letting you know it's trying to, it's just initializing and figuring out what up and down is. As you can see, the camera slightly moved there. It's now got a blue light. That indicates that the gimbal's now leveled itself, and it's ready to go. So I got the bike on the stand right now, so I don't want to mess with it, but as you can see, as you take corners, pop wheelies, whatever, camera stays nice and steady. Gives you a really smooth video. I have noticed that you know, the vibration of the bike's still there. You know, this thing has little shock absorbers which help deaden some of the bounce, but you know, you get a lot of bounce. But you can see the gimbal does fairly well at stabilizing it. You can see in my one video that it does pretty good. Anyway, that's how I have it mounted up to the Ducati. Just to give you an idea, it doesn't interfere riding position wise. It's pretty much setting it right in front of my knee. And if like I said, I had some times where this would exceed its lean angle. So what happens is, I'm assuming that's what happens. What happens is if it reaches this point to where it touches here, or if it reaches a point to where it touches here, the gimbal will put itself into a safe mode and just basically go limp. So there was a couple times, not so much on the Ducati, on the FJR especially, where I had to pull over, unplug it, let it recalibrate. I don't think I ever exceeded this side on the Ducati, but you know, this side, I don't know. Maybe I find it hard to believe that I'm leaning that much. But the FJR especially, it kept kicking off on me. I'm not quite sure why. And all I can think of is lean angle. I had it on the helmet a few times, and I never got it to kick off on the helmet. Of course, your head's not leaning nearly like the bike is, so I have to think it has something to do with the lean angle. But another thing I really like about this mount, as opposed to the mount that I think it was Hella Pro had the video up on YouTube that showed they incorporated these type of hangers with some carbon fiber rods and actually zip tied it to this. I didn't really like that idea too much. I like the rigid mount a lot better. And the other thing I like is if I want to switch sides of the bike, switch sides of the helmet I'm having on or whatever, it's nice and easy to be able to undo this, flip it around the other way, get the zip ties out of the way. And it's as simple as that. Makes changing sides really easy. Yeah, anyway. Here you can see an example of how I had it mounted to the helmet. Is it bulky? Yeah. Can you tell it's there? Yeah, you can definitely tell your helmet's heavier with it. I don't use it for real quick shots. I mean, real long shots, mostly for shorter runs. If I have a good stretch of road, you know, a mile or two long, throw it up there, do it. But it's nothing you'd probably want to do real long ways. I have a tether. I tether it off to the chin strap. But as the footage will show after this, it works really well. Of course, I don't have this thing tethered right now, so hopefully it doesn't fall off, but just to give you an idea. It stays nice and level. One thing you will see in the video, though, is as I'm looking through corners, the gimbal can't compensate for that. It doesn't have a gyro on that axis, so it will turn with you, but when it comes to when you're leaning into corners, it does really good at compensating for that. Here you can see the mounting spot that I use on the FJR. Right on the fairing, fits well, works pretty good. Again, not sure what was going on with the lean angles. Was getting some errors. I'll show a clip of video after this where it seemed to work okay, but real aggressive riding seemed to make it fault out. So it does come with some software. Maybe I can work these bugs out. I don't know. As you can see, you don't think I'd be able to exceed that much lean angle, so I don't know if it's something else. I don't know if it's vibration, wind, what the deal is. Let it initialize again. There you can see it leveled itself. Back this up a little bit so you can see it further away. Another thing I like about the FJR is I have this rear backrest here. As you can see, I've already got a GoPro mount there. I've run just rigid mounted cameras back here. You can get some really good footage of riders behind you. Some good pictures. So I hope to adapt this next. Should be fairly easy for me to adapt it to, again, mount back here. Should be able to get the same effect. So that'll be next in the works. I had a gimbal before this that I actually, the only place I tested it was here. And it did real well, but it was so bulky and big I couldn't relocate it to the fairing or anything like that. It had a separate circuit board that was mounted, that I had to mount down here. The battery I had to mount down here. The gimbal itself was real big, so this is a lot more compact, a lot better package. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with it. It's got some bugs, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Another thing I plan on doing in the future is making a handheld rig for this. I've seen ones on the internet where, again, I could just use a standard GoPro adapter, come down with some kind of either tubing or whatever, so I can have a good handle here. And for taking still footage when you're out walking around and stuff, again, footage comes out really nice. It's nice and stable. As you're stepping, the camera isn't sitting there moving up and down. Just another feature that this could do. Anyway, hope this answers some of your questions. I know I've been asked about battery life on the LiPo battery that I run. All I can say is I don't know how long it lasts, but I'd have to think it's going to last quite a while. These motors don't draw a whole lot. When I was out recording on the January 1st ride, I used up 2 full batteries in the Hero 3, and this thing still worked fine. Put it on the charger when I got home. It only took about 15 minutes to charge back up again. So I'd have to think battery life. I think you'll run out of batteries on the GoPro before you run out of batteries on this. If there's any other questions, you can just add it to the comments. I'll answer them as best I can. And thanks for watching.
Maybe I should